working. Ta-da! It's working. Great. I hope you can hear. Mm, okay. So let's make sure the sound is good. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start. I'm translating the message that the president gave on Saturday. It's not very long, but it was very concise and it spoke very clearly about what is going on in Mexico regarding the COVID-19 virus. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. Este sábado me dirijo a ustedes para informarles sobre la evolución de la pandemia del coronavirus, lo que estamos haciendo, cuál es la situación actual. Estamos en un momento crítico por el número de contagios, sobre todo en el Valle de México. Pero so he says he's going to be discussing overall what was regarding the contagions of the COVID-19 overall and especially in Mexico City, Mexico. But I'm wondering if you guys can hear him speaking. Anybody there that can tell me? Hola, buenos días, ¿cómo estás, Martín? ¿Puedo saber si puedes escucharme a mí hablar y al presidente si lo escuchas? Okay, let's test this here. Quiero saber si alguien puede decirme si escucha, si se escucha bien. Testing it. No sound. Testing. Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and start it up again. Quiero manifestarles mi optimismo. Tengo que hablarles con la verdad y decirles que aún so he says, esta circunstancia, I want to manifest my optimism, and I want to let you know that even in this circumstance, estoy optimista. I am optimistic. En lo que cabe, porque se trata de un asunto muy delicado, muy grave. Well, as far as you could say that, because you're actually talking about a matter that is very grave, very serious. Son enfermos. It is people that are ill. Now, I am not noticing any sound coming out. So excuse me just a moment. I'm going to try to adjust the sound here. Not really sure what's going on. Seems like the sound may be off in my gadget here. Properties. I'm not sure what's going on. see if that works. Okay, so here we go.
Es pérdida de vidas humanas. Enviamos permanentemente nuestro
So he says it's regarding the loss of human life, and we send our permanent
pésame
condolences
a familiares de los que han perdido la vida,
to the family members of those that have lost their lives.
nuestro abrazo afectuoso
And our warm embraces affectionately,
solidario a los enfermos
with solidarity to the ill ones,
y deseándoles que se recuperen pronto.
and desiring that they recover quickly.
Bueno, tenemos que decir que en medio de lo adverso,
And we have to say that
lo
amidst the adversity and the
difícil es enfrentar esta pandemia,
and having to deal with this very difficult pandemic
esta terrible enfermedad,
and this terrible infirmity.
se ha estado actuando bien.
We have been behaving well.
Ha sido muy eficaz el tratamiento que se le ha dado a esta pandemia. Los medios
And it is very efficient, the treatment that we have given to this pandemic. And in the media,
las formas, las medidas que se han tomado
the measures that have been taken
para domar esta pandemia,
in order to dominate this pandemic,
las recomendaciones
the recommendations
que han hecho los médicos, los especialistas, los científicos,
that have been made by the doctors, the specialists, the scientists,
que han resultado buenas, términos generales, muy buenas.
that have resulted in very good terms generally,
Decisiones se han tomado y
and that very good decisions have been taken and made.
lo mejor es el que se han respetado estas recomendaciones por parte de la gente.
And the best part is that the recommendations were respected on the part of the people.
Repito, medalla de oro es el pueblo, su comportamiento ejemplar.
And I repeat that the gold medal goes to the people in their exemplary behavior, in the way they behaved.
Medalla de plata a los médicos que están ahí salvando.
And he says, and the silver medal goes to the doctors that are there,
Vidas, las enfermeras,
and the nurses.
héroes, heroínas,
They're heroes and heroines.
y también los responsables de la aplicación de la estrategia para
And also those that were responsible for the strategy in order to confront it,
enfrentar el coronavirus. Miren,
this coronavirus. And so he has a paper he wants to show.
Lo fundamental se puede explicar en esta gráfica.
And he says the fundamental part could be explained in this graph.
Si no aplicamos las medidas, si no le hacemos caso
Had we not listened, had we not paid attention and done what was recommended
a los especialistas,
to the specialists,
no se hubiese aplicado la medida de retirarnos a nuestras casas,
and if we had not applied the measure of retiring to our homes
y llevar a cabo la sana distancia,
and if we had not kept our distance,
cuidarnos nosotros mismos,
and if we had not taken care of ourselves,
esto es lo que hubiese sucedido.
this black line, this peak is what would have happened, would have occurred.
Esta situación nos hubiese hecho crisis a finales de marzo,
And it would have caused us a crisis by the end of March
a principios de abril.
and at the beginning of April.
Miren cuántos enfermos hubiésemos tenido en terapia.
And here you can see, he says, look how many people we would have had in intensive care.
Intensiva. Como 4.800.
It would have been about 4,800.
Como 4.800 enfermos en terapia intensiva.
And we would have had 4,800 that were sick and in intensive care units.
Miren lo que se logró. Esto no se presentó, afortunadamente.
And you can see what we gained. This situation did not present itself, fortunately.
Y esta es la situación que se está dando.
And what you see below, this small hill, is the actual situation that occurred.
Miren la gran diferencia.
And look at the great difference.
Como sí funcionó.
You can see that it did function.
El aplanar la curva.
And we were able to level out that curve
Con las medidas preventivas.
with the preventative measures.
Pero veamos esto. Cuando hubiese estado así,
But now, take a look at this. If it had been at this point,
aquí en lo más alto,
in this very high point,
la pandemia, nosotros no hubiésemos tenido el número de camas suficientes.
then we would not have had enough beds at that time.
Porque teníamos 3.552
Because we only had 3,552 beds
camas con médicos
that had doctors.
en enero.
And that was in January.
Entonces, ¿cómo se iban a necesitar 4.800?
And we would have required 4,800,
Íbamos a tener problemas
then we would have had problems
para atender
in order to attend to them.
a enfermos graves. ¿Qué hemos venido haciendo? Se aplana la curva, nos da tiempo y ahora contamos solo sector público con 8.
So if we were to count just the public sector,
8.607 camas.
we now have 8,607 beds.
8.607.
5,607.
Tenemos la posibilidad de atender a todos los enfermos. Este es de
But now we have the possibility of attending to all our ill people.
ayer,
And this we picked up from yesterday.
el dato de las 12 de la noche.
This data was taken at midnight.
Tenemos una ocupación en terapia intensiva del 39% de las camas.
And right now we have 39% people that are intensive care units.
Es decir, tenemos ocupadas 3,417.
And right now we have 3,417 beds that are occupied
El país.
in the whole country.
Y tenemos disponibles 5,298.
And we have at our disposal 5,928
en toda la República.
in the whole republic.
Donde tenemos ahora más casos, donde está la pandemia en lo más alto.
So where we have the most cases, where the pandemic is at its highest point, is
Baja California.
in Baja California.
Tenemos solo 57% de ocupación.
We only have 57% occupation.
En el caso de la Ciudad de México,
And in the case of the city of Mexico,
por aquí, 56%
right around here, it's about 56%
de ocupación en terapia intensiva.
that is occupying the intensive care units.
Es decir, tenemos 43% de disponibilidad de camas.
So we still have 43% beds at our disposal.
La Ciudad de México.
That is in the city of Mexico.
Tlaxcala tiene muy pocos casos, pero en total contamos con 65 camas.
In Tlaxcala, we have very few cases, and we count on 65 beds
Para terapia intensiva. Tenemos una ocupación de 67%.
and we have an occupation of 67%.
Tenemos disponible 32%.
And we have at our disposal 32%.
A nivel nacional, ya lo expliqué, tenemos disponibilidad del 60% de las camas.
And so we have
Esto es muy importante.
a great
También
percentage of the beds available. And this is very important. And also,
se han venido cumpliendo las proyecciones que han hecho los técnicos, los médicos, los científicos y los matemáticos.
and you can see that the projections that the scientists had made have been correct.
Ahí vamos. Y estamos en lo más alto en el Valle de México.
And here you can see the highest part was in the Valley of Mexico.
Pero ya vamos a empezar a
But now we are going to start
descender.
to descend.
Estos días son los más difíciles,
And these days are the most difficult,
los más dolorosos.
the most painful ones.
Estos días, sobre todo por los fallecimientos.
Especially related to the deaths.
Tenemos también el caso de Tabasco.
And we also have the case of Tabasco.
Ahí, mi estado, mis queridos paisanos, mi estado que siempre lo
And-
llevo prendido
He says, in my state, you can see this is where I'm from. This is the one that's always close to my heart.
Corazón. Aquí se salió de lo proyectado porque hubo un relajamiento, paisanos.
And he said there we had a re-outbreak because the people became too relaxed.
Y no es hay mojo maestro, ¿no? Esto es una situación que requiere de mucho cuidado.
And he says you can't be lackadaisical. This is a situation that requires a lot of caution.
Que nos aislemos, que nos cuidemos.
That we need to aisle ourselves off to take care of each other.
Y por eso hubo una especie de rebrote. Iba bien y como que se relajó la disciplina y se nos elevó.
And he says, and we were doing well, but it looks like they relaxed their discipline, and so we had a re-outbreak
El número de casos
in
confirmados.
the number of confirmed cases.
Pero ya, espero que vayamos hacia abajo.
But it looks like we're on the way down.
Y aquí hay otros casos.
And here are other cases.
Vamos viendo casos en donde, vamos a decir, ha sido exitoso el comportamiento.
And here are some cases where you could say that we had a very successful confrontation of that virus.
Caso de Culiacán.
In the case of Culiacán, Sinaloa.
Es muy claro cómo ya va de salida.
And you can see very clearly that it is in descent on its way out.
En Sinaloa. Desde luego, hay que mantener la sana distancia hasta finales de este mes. Sana distancia.
So, but we still need to remember to keep a safe distance till the end of this month.
Y quedarnos en casa, no relajar la disciplina.
And we need to stay home and not relax our discipline.
Pero aquí se va bien. Estoy hablando de los lugares más críticos.
And I'm pointing out just the most critical places.
Baja California, muy claramente, hay un descenso.
And in Baja California, that's Tijuana, you can see a very clear descent.
Muy claramente. Esto es Tijuana, básicamente. Se tiene también la gráfica de Mexicali, pero donde...
So he says this is Tijuana. We also have the graph that shows Mexicali, but this one had a larger amount.
Se presentó primero y...
And it started first here. It presented itself first here.
Con mayor intensidad.
And with more intensity.
En Tijuana ya vemos que hay una disminución.
And you can see that it's diminishing.
Y el otro caso también que me da muchísimo gusto es el de Cancún.
And he says the other case, which makes me very happy, is that of Cancún.
Ya también va hacia abajo.
There in Quintana Roo, it is on its way down also.
Tenemos que continuar con nuestra disciplina, siguiendo las recomendaciones. Ya vamos a entrar a la etapa.
And so he says with discipline and following the recommendations, we are now going to enter into the phase
De los semáforos donde ya se pueden iniciar actividades,
So we're going to reach the point of the stop signs and where you're going to be able to start to reinitiate activities.
en donde todavía no es conveniente. Vamos también ya
And also you have to be aware of the areas where it is not yet convenient. And we're going to
hacer una evaluación sobre el regreso a clases.
we're going to be reevaluating as to the return to classes.
Vamos a dar a conocer lineamientos generales a partir de la recomendación médica.
And so we are going to be looking at the recommendations from the doctors.
Sanitaria, a partir de cómo están comportándose las cosas en las distintas regiones del país. El secretario de Educación Pública, Esteban Montes.
And we're going to be looking at how the situations are behaving in the different parts of the country. And we're going to be discussing education.
Suma va a informar de dónde pueden reiniciarse las clases, dónde.
And they will be informing as to where you can reinitiate the classes.
¿No? ¿Qué cálculos se tienen?
And then also what calculations they have.
En ese sentido, lo mismo.
Related to that or in that sense. And also,
En el caso de las actividades productivas.
And also in the case of productive activities.
De las empresas, de la industria de la construcción.
Relating to industry and construction.
Que ya se está en proceso de apertura.
Which is about to open or is in the process of opening.
Regresando a la nueva normalidad con mucho cuidado.
That are returning to the normalcy with very much caution.
La minería, la industria automotriz.
Mineries, the automotive industry.
Pensando en que tenemos que eslabonar ya las acciones de México con Estados Unidos, con Canadá.
And keeping in mind that we are going to be having activities with the United States and with Canada.
Para que inicie el tratado de libre
so that we can initiate the free trade agreement.
Comercio, la nueva etapa del tratado de libre comercio con.
That is the new phase within free trade agreement.
Estados Unidos y Canadá el día 1 de julio.
And it will be on the 1st of July with Canada and the U.S.
Activar nuestra economía.
And that will reactivate our economy.
Termino mostrándoles algo que me ha costado mucho trabajo, porque no quería yo.
And I'm going to end by showing you something that was causing me a lot of difficulty doing it because I really didn't want to.
No quería hacer comparaciones.
Because I do not like making comparisons.
Las comparaciones son odiosas.
All comparisons are hateful.
Y además, comparar el sufrimiento es doblemente odioso.
And it is doubly hateful to compare suffering.
Incorrecto.
And it is incorrect.
De modo que ofrezco disculpa.
So for this reason, I am asking or apologizing in advance.
¿Por qué lo tengo que hacer?
But why do I have to do this?
Porque hay una campaña en nuestro país.
Because there is a campaign in our country.
De gente insensata.
Of people that are insensitive.
Que por diferencias con plan.
Because due to differences of beliefs and related to our plan,
No están de acuerdo con la transformación del país.
and they're not in agreement with the transformation of our country.
No quieren dejar de robar.
They do not want to stop stealing.
Quieren mantener el mismo régimen de corrupción, de injusticias, de privilegios.
They want to continue with the same injustices and corruptions and privileges for the rich.
Y como no estamos dando ni un paso atrás, ni siquiera para tomar impulso,
We are not allowing not a single step backwards, not to allow them to take their stands.
porque tenemos que transformar a México.
Because we must transform Mexico.
Tenemos que desterrar la corrupción del
We need to unearth corruption
país. Y
from our whole country.
tiene que haber justicia en México.
And there has to be justice in Mexico.
Y se tiene que terminar con la monstruosa desigualdad económica y social que existe.
And we have to end the monstrosity of inequality that exists in Mexico. That is the inequality of social status.
Y tiene que haber democracia.
And we have to have democracy.
Y el pueblo tiene que ser tomado en cuenta.
And they need to take into account the people.
México no puede ser país de unos cuantos, de una minoría.
Mexico cannot be a place that is owned by a select few, a minority of unethical people.
La paz. Entonces, como tenemos esa diferencia,
But because we have these differences,
pues ellos apuestan a que nos vaya mal,
and they are hoping that it goes bad for us,
aún afectando el interés general
even though it affects the general interests,
y valiéndose hasta de la tragedia.
and even taking
Eso,
advantage of
ganado de que
tragedy.
Es una temporada de sopilotes, es fuerte, pero la verdad,
But the
vean
truth,
la prensa,
if
la mayor
you,
parte de los periódicos,
the majority of
la
the
radio, la
newspapers,
televisión, pero sobre todo los periódicos,
the radio, the television, but overall and especially the newspapers
están en contra nuestra,
are against us,
amarillistas,
with
parecen
yellow.
lo que era en un
They are using yellow journalism. It looks like what it used to be before some time ago.
tiempo la revista Alarma,
Like that old magazine we had, which was called Alarma, which was alarming.
están saturados los hospitales,
And they say that the hospitals are saturated,
de que están llenos los hornos crematorios,
and they say that the crematoriums are full.
cosas de ese tipo, ¿no?
Things of that type.
Generan miedo, temor, angustia, la gente está sufriendo mucho,
And they encourage anguish and fear, and the people are suffering very much.
que pues sí se afecta con tanto tiempo
Because they are affected by this such a long time
de estar en una situación difícil,
of being in such a difficult situation,
de sufrimiento.
of suffering.
Entonces con esas noticias
So
pues,
with that news,
se afecta más el estado de ánimo.
it affects more the people's feelings.
Entonces, por eso sí quiero comentar de que no es como lo dice esta prensa alarmista, amarillista,
So I do want to say what the numbers are, because I want to let them know that it's not like this alarming yellow journalists press is putting it out.
México ha sabido enfrentar la pandemia.
Mexico has been able to confront the pandemic very well.
Y pues estamos mejor que otros países.
And we are actually doing better than other countries.
En donde desgraciadamente les ha pegado mucho.
Where unfortunately they have been hit very hard.
Vamos a datos.
And here we go to the data.
Donde no hay cifra negra. No quiero hablar de casos porque pueden decir que se ocultan los casos.
Oh my
No
gosh.
vamos a poder ocultar. No lo haríamos nunca por convicción, por principio, por honestidad, ocultar los fallecimientos.
So he says, where there is no black cipher, he goes, and we would not give any false numbers due to ethics.
Entonces, si comparamos, y ofrezco disculpa,
But if we compare, and I again am asking to be forgiven,
bueno, el país que tiene más fallecidos,
so the country that has the most deaths,
donde han perdido más la vida por esta pandemia,
where they have lost more lives due to this pandemic,
pues es Bélgica, desgraciadamente.
unfortunately it's Belgium.
Esto por millón de habitantes.
So this is done by the per million inhabitants.
Entonces tienen 14, casi 15 veces más fallecidos que en nuestro país.
They have about 14 to 15 times more deaths than our country.
En España, 11 veces más
And in Spain, they have 11 times more deaths
fallecidos que en nuestro país.
than our country.
Ofrezco disculpa a los españoles y a
And I'm asking for the forgiveness of the Spanish people and the Belgians.
los habitantes de estos países.
And the inhabitants of these countries.
Pero Inglaterra 10 veces más.
But England also has 10 times more.
Francia también 10 veces más, 9.5.
And France has about 10 more, or 9.5 or 6.
Y Estados Unidos, nuestros vecinos,
And the U.S., our neighbors,
5 veces más.
they have 5 times more
Fallecidos que en nuestro país.
deaths than in our country.
Canadá, 3 veces más
And Canada has 3 times more
fallecidos.
that are dead.
Brasil, 1.8, casi 2 veces más.
And Brazil has 1.8 times, almost twice as many.
Alemania, lo mismo,
And Germany about that also,
casi 2 veces más
almost 2 times as much.
que en México. Entonces, no son recomendables las comparaciones. Lo
But it is not recommendable to make comparisons, but I do this
hago porque quiero mandar el mensaje
because I want to send a message
de que se está actuando
to let them know that we are behaving
de manera responsable,
in a responsible way,
con profesionalismo,
with professionalism,
y que esto que se ha logrado
and this that we have gained
a pesar de la tragedia,
even with all the tragedy,
es por la participación consciente y responsable
is due to the responsible participation
de nuestro pueblo.
of our people.
No solo es por los médicos, por los hospitales.
It's not just because of the doctors and the hospitals.
Es fundamentalmente
Fundamentally, it is
porque todos hemos actuado
because we have all behaved
a la altura de las circunstancias. La
to the stature of the circumstances.
mayoría de los mexicanos,
The majority
sin
of the Mexican people, without
el uso de la fuerza, sin medidas coercitivas,
use of force, without coercive measures,
sin toque de queda,
without any what do you call it when you're forced to stay inside? Curfew.
Por eso mi reconocimiento al pueblo de México.
And for this reason, I give my recognition to the people of Mexico.
Eso es lo que quería yo,
And that is what I wanted to say,
transmitirles, informarles.
to transmit and inform you.
Este sábado
Wow. So that was very awesome, right? I was quite impressed with the president's, gathering of the data and being able to present it in such a clean, easy to understand manner. And also, I was very touched by his humanity, by how he didn't want to point out, and compare, regarding the deaths and bad luck of other countries, but simply because we really do have a big problem with the press that is, they were used to getting a lot of money for doing tricky things and illicit behavior, and they've cut that out, and they're still trying to get back in the swing of things. They're trying to get that control over the economy again and allow corruption back in, and take advantage of the people the way they were doing. And they've done such a good job in Mexico of weeding out corruption, and it's quite impressive. I'm myself am very impressed with this president of Mexico, and everything that they've accomplished. If you have not been keeping track, they are providing free medical, free education, resources for the elderly, putting in a lot of different projects that are helping the country. For example, new refineries, new airports, new trains, just a lot of things that are really good for our country and Mexico. Makes Mexico a much more appealing place to go to retire. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much to Antonio and Constanza Casillas and Enrique Sanchez and let's see, Martin Ruiz. Thank you very much for joining today, and muchas gracias por estar aquí, amigos, y ojalá estén aquí conmigo cuando hagamos la traducción que siga. Adiós.